Hey, all my Cancer friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your September 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Cancer, I'm referring to Cancer rising as being the first house and dictating the landscape of the chart. This is also applicable to Cancer sun, Cancer moon, and if you have 3 or more personal planets in Cancer, this is also for you. When I refer to a day and a time, it's based on the Pacific time zone, so please adjust for your location. The day starts with Uranus in your 11th house retrograding. Now, Uranus has been going through Taurus since 2018, really shifting things. And Taurus is naturally the second house. It rules skills, it rules your voice, it rules your talents and your gifts and your self-confidence. It rules your personal family history and how your confidence was shaped by that history. Now we overlay the 11th house, which rules the cosmic consciousness, the World Wide Web. It rules the future. It rules things that are unprecedented because they are innovative and they are futuristic, for lack of a better term. The 11th house rules your hopes and your dreams. And so, in many ways, the Taurus energy, while it rules history, can be a little bit stuck. So, Uranus has been going through the sign of Taurus and sort of shifting things unexpectedly, either people, places, situations, in order to open us all up to a renovation of some kind, a 2.0. So when we look at it being your 11th house, this is a house that also matures over time. So you may find that your social groups, many of your this is also the house of friends. They often refer to it that way. You might find lots of things have shifted for you. You've also been experiencing Pluto going through your 7th house of Capricorn. It dipped its toe into your 8th house of Aquarius. And now, a little later today, it's going to go back into your 7th house. This is a favorable aspect between Pluto and Uranus. And yet, at the same time, it's a little unnerving because it is really mucking up everyday activities. We see Mercury here is conjunct the moon at this time. Mercury rules our everyday thoughts, our communications, the media, journalism, the news feeds, TikTok, Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, all these kind of dynamics. So there's a push-pull between your everyday life, the media, what you're experiencing sort of outside of yourself, as well as inside, because this is the monkey mind as well. But this feels very much like potentially there could be things on the internet that are triggering you, that are feeling like they're obstacles to your hopes and your dreams. The United States is in a election year, and it is an unprecedented election at that. Passions are running high. At the time that I am recording this, Mars and Jupiter are basically conjunct in Gemini. So we're seeing a lot of media and a lot of expansion within that media and the passions that each entity has. So I want to offer this because this square for you is really sort of giving you a revisit. Mercury has been traveling through your 2nd house. It dipped into your 3rd house and then it retrograded. And when it did, it became a focal point. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But for now, I just want to say that your emotional body and your mind, this is your ruling planet, the moon, could very well be feeling a little bit unsure. How, the 2nd house rules our sense of security. And here, Uranus is making that feel unsettled, nervous, that like unexpected things can happen out of nowhere. And I know unexpected things do happen out of nowhere, but I mean, it really feels like it's just a mind-blowing kind of situation. Now, later in the day, around 6 p.m. Pacific time, we will see Pluto move back into your 7th house. Now, the 7th house rules It rules partnerships, marriages. We often think of it that way, cooperation, an exchange of energy that is contractual. It also rules professional partnerships, and it rules our sense of peace and harmony and diplomacy, fairness, and balance. And the sign of Capricorn, is extremely focused on ambition, career, drive, building in the material world. And in doing so, there could be an imbalance within your relationships. The Cancer first house is going to really connect with their emotional body, with their intuitive body. They'll be very nurturing and very much wanting to create a beautiful home and hearth with tradition. They'll be very passionate with their origins, their roots, the traditions of their roots. And here in the seventh house, there is something coming up where if there's been a dryness or fears or a stoic energy within the partnership sector, things are moving. And they have been for quite some time. I'm sure you've experienced that, but now we're going to have this last sort of run through or last look through it to get the cobwebs out. This is going to happen until November, where it will re-enter Aquarius on the 19th. And then it will reside in your 8th house of transformation until 2043. And I think what this is really going to do is give Cancers an opportunity to examine the fears of human structure, societal fears. That naturally Capricorn rules the 10th house. So here is your 7th house. There could be a real focus on how the relationships look to the outside versus how they feel on the inside. Again, both personal and professional relationships. This is a house of peace and harmony and balance. So this is a challenging dynamic. It's also Pluto's been having some pretty intense conversations with the Sun and Venus and Mercury in August, and it's going to revisit that conversation in a couple of days. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go to the second, where we have a new moon in Virgo. That's happening at 6:55 p.m. Pacific time. Now, I've been noticing, and I can't help it because my brain works this way. I notice the numbers, I notice the repetition of things, I notice patterns. So we've been having Neptune and Pluto in a sextile at 29 degrees for months now. And this is nice because it is giving us an opportunity again to excavate. I shouldn't say Pluto has not been at 29 degrees for months. It's been in Aquarius, but we've already experienced this energy as Pluto is coming out of your 7th house. So there's been a revisit, there's been a revamping, an excavation, a digging deep into how my mind works, how my fears work, how depression affects me, how my moods affect me. And that is evidenced further by Neptune. Neptune is in your 9th house of beliefs. It is about to move into your 10th house, which is a house of public status, a house of career and drive. And there could very well have been a series of experiences that have been compelling you or inspiring you to be a little bit more individualistic in the sense of caring for yourself, Cancer, and knowing that as you care for yourself, it actually gives you more energy, more time, more enthusiasm to care for others. Now we go to this moon, and it is at the 11th degree. 29 reduces down to 11, and the 11 represents the master number of thought. And we've been seeing this repeatedly. And so here, this is an opportunity to plant the seeds during this new moon, where we're in the darkest phase of the moon, where Cancer gets to use its ruling planet to really dig deep and find its identity inside its intuitive body, that part of you that knows things without having to see it with your eyes, because this opposition to Saturn is giving you an opportunity to rewrite the beliefs that have held you or tethered you to old antiquated traditions that don't really serve or allow for a broadening, allow for a balancing. I think this is super important because, again, Pisces is your 9th house. And this has been, for me, Saturn's journey for 2 years through Pisces at this time in history is about anchoring into the laws of the universe, the things that cannot be seen, but that are felt and that are ancestral, in meaning that our soul knows this on a deep level, but when we get into the human body, we cannot access, or we don't remember those things. So there could be some trepidation for you at the time of this moon, and at the same time it gives you an opportunity to apply process. By potentially, you're going to want to start affirmations or weekly meditations, or even potentially join a group to be of like-mindedness. We could see that Uranus could be affecting that in your 11th house. So this is just the first 2 days. Now we go over to the 4th, and Mars is going to move into its fall. And when a planet is in its fall, it just feels disrespected. It doesn't feel valued. It feels as if it's not being heard. There is a feeling of being ignored or apart, as if there's a contrariness to it. Well, Mars is hot and fiery and can be very angry and resentful. And you, on the other hand, are empathetic, nurturing, loving, and caring. So as Mars enters your first house, there's this real jarring feeling, okay? And it could even bring up things within your personal life that make you frustrated. It could, we see that there's a bit of a focal point here on Mars. Not only your ruling planet is focused on it, South Node, and then we have a good square between Neptune and Mars, and then the North Node. Now, this energy on some level for Cancers, I think, is important, and that's evidenced by the quincunx to Pluto. Because maybe sometimes you're such a lover, such a caring person, such a nurturer that you hold your anger in. And I don't know if that serves you. So let me give you this analogy, because there is steam that blows the pot, the top off the pot. And then there's the steam that actually makes the locomotive move. Okay. And serves as a catalyst. So I think that Mars's transit, while initially could bring something challenging, it could inherently make you feel tethered to your Capricorn energy. I know we're in Libra here, but I'm thinking partnership, South Node, habit. The moon is your ruling planet. And it's also, these 2 points are on the supergalactic center, which is a point that really encourages us to have a strong relationship with the self and to look at the self as source. That is at 2 degrees, 22 minutes of Libra, and it's squaring this Mars. So you may be tired. Maybe you don't want to, I'm tired of taking care of everyone and taking care of myself. But part of the taking care of is allowing to individualize. That's that North Node, really finding a place where, I need a little space, or I need to create this for myself. Again, that 10th house is a house of public status. It's a house of reputation, drive, ambition, and it can represent leadership in government and those large structures. But here, I think, with the square also to Neptune, it's really more about that deeper sense of what brings a sense of divinity into your life, Cancer. So this is an interesting dynamic as Mars moves into your first house. We also go to the 9th, and this is a pivotal time, I think, because this is a time when I'm going to go back to 12 o'clock. Mercury has been the apex or the focal point of a yod. And I see yods in patterns, but here I think this one's rather important, because Mercury is not only the ruler of Virgo, it is also exalted in Virgo. And Virgo is your 3rd house of how you think, how you speak, how you interact with the neighborhood, your siblings. It's the house that holds all the busy things that we do in our everyday lives, and is naturally co-ruled by Mercury because it's naturally Gemini. So here we had Mercury come over this spot in August, then it retrograded over this spot, and now it's moving forward again, having assimilated in many ways the things and the concepts. Here we see this sextile to your first house and Mars, and yet there's still this unknowing. There's still this feeling of, if I'm too rebellious, will my hopes and my dreams come true? And at this time, there's your ruling planet, the moon, in a square again. Your emotions wanting to move in a new direction, wanting to wake up to a new experience in your sixth house of Sagittarius, for your health, for your service to others, and yet it may fight with your everyday life. And then we see these quincunxes making up the yod. And this is where I think it's really about where's my focus? There's the 29 degrees, there's the 28 degrees, again, reducing down to a 1. And I being able to identify or start to put into practice the way my mind works as a loop, the way it is an apparatus, and that I infuse intentional thought. But if I don't infuse intentional thought, it tends to run amok with the everyday activities of life. Virgo very much represents our everyday habits. So I think this is a pivotal point, having Mercury be so strong in Virgo, and giving it an opportunity to start to put in those practices that are so good for the Virgo energy, in either some sort of routine that connects you with your divinity within, that makes sense of where you've walked, that gets to be rebirthed and might need to even be reframed completely. Pluto can be a little tough. We all know that. Now we're going into second eclipse season of the year. Starts off on the 17th at 7:34 p.m. And the eclipse is in Pisces at 25 degrees, conjunct Neptune. This is so powerful. Pisces, again, your ninth house of beliefs, of moving into more diversity, a broadness, but also the ninth house is extremely strong for the connection to the angelic realm, for you to really use your powers of, your water, your intuition, your moon energy. We will often, when we think about the moon, we only think about the side of the moon that we see, the man in the moon, but there's a whole other side that we don't see from Earth. And I think that's represented here in this Neptune energy. And Neptune is retrograding as the moon is meeting, sort of offering this deeply intuitive opportunity and illumination. And this illumination may be extremely personal, and it also may be somehow something that comes up in the media, or in the, via something mercurial, because again, this is a Virgo, a Pisces full moon, but the sun is still in Virgo. And we're still feeling the nodes even tighter, and making a T-square to Mars. So whatever the illumination is, because it may come from inside of yourself, you may discover a deception. You may discover you have been deceiving yourself because you've been hoping something would change or something would shift, and it hasn't shown any evidence of that. And in that wisdom, in that knowledge, there is wisdom to be gained. And that's where I think Mars starts to become the locomotive in your first house. Maybe this is what propels you into that bit of individual efforts, or the individual focus, as the North Node is offering you in your house of reputation and career and ambition. So this could be very, very, and eclipses, they have a 6-month time frame. Things can pop up within a 6-month period of time. But I think we're a little bit at an accelerated reveal stage here at this time. So your ability to be aware of the illumination, even if it feels a little erosive or a little dampening, it's here to lift you and to remove something that was no longer serving you. I think this is extra evidenced by Venus. Venus is making a quincunx to the moon, your ruling planet. She is currently on the fixed star Spica, which is the voice of angels. And this is sometimes where the moon cannot feel or see because it's entrenched in that human experience, how a disruption is divinely orchestrated for your benefit. And I think that's evidenced by Venus's trine here to Jupiter, giving you an opportunity to expand. I know Jupiter is in detriment here, but Jupiter's been here a while, and Jupiter's starting to enjoy discovering the idiosyncrasies and intricacies of the human experience and mind and speech and intention. And so as I look at this Gemini energy being your 12th house and Venus being in your 4th house of home gives you an opportunity to somehow reconcile an experience from your roots and potentially even tap it further into the authenticity of who you are and what you want to birth of yourself in this lifetime. Now, the square here to Pluto is not easy because, again, Pluto is challenging you to ask you where you'll find your confidence, where you'll find your sense of ease and harmony, where you'll find your sense of yin and yang, because Libra is naturally this Venusian energy, but for you, it's the 4th house, which you naturally rule. So very much you would want to have peace and harmony in the home, but sometimes a disruption actually brings the peace and the harmony that is required, and lifting the rug, as they say. So there is this blind spot over here to the moon where Venus kind of feels that something needs to shift, and your moon is saying, wow, if I do that shift, will my life be, will I upend myself on some level? And I think this is where a little bit of courage and tenacity come in, and where Mars in your 1st house might be able to serve you. So if something pisses you off during this full moon lunar eclipse, partial lunar eclipse, it's probably something that's going to benefit you in the long run. Okay. Now, let's go to the 22nd. I'm going to go back to 12 p.m. and the sun will move into Libra. Oh, I think I need to move later in the day. Hold on a second. Yes, the sun will have moved into, but Libra, I want to move a little later in the day because Venus moves into Scorpio. Let's just go to 6 p.m. Okay. Oh my goodness. Let me go a little later. I'll go 9 p.m. Okay, so now we see that the sun has moved into Libra, where it is in its fall. And we see Venus has moved into Scorpio, where she's in her detriment. Now, the difference between the two is when a planet is in fall, it doesn't feel respected, it doesn't feel heard, it doesn't feel valued, it doesn't feel listened to. When a planet is in detriment, it feels out of control. It feels a bit of exile and a sense of dis-ease and uncomfortable. It sort of has the creeps all the time, worrying that something's going to creep up behind it and spook it. And things tend to not go as planned. Sometimes they fall apart altogether. And I think it's that sense of dis-ease. So now we're seeing the sun move into this sign of partnership, approaching, is already conjunct the supergalactic center. The sun representing your ego, your drive, your ambition, how you project your light out into the world. And at this time, I feel like this is offering you an opportunity to look at yourself as source, to look at yourself as a sense of, this natural Libra 4th house for you, giving you an opportunity to find yourself and root into that, because that will later benefit those that you love and that you want to embrace. I really think this is about taking care of you, Cancer, taking care of you at a kind of bigger level, not just getting your hair done and looking nice, but emotionally and spiritually. Here we see Venus is entering her detriment of Scorpio. This is where she has, for the most part, Venus representing an a feminine energy has not been respected at her highest assertiveness. And here she could be a little assertive and a little bit controlling. And here it's not, again, not usually appreciated by the outside world. So she feels this sense of dis-ease. And I feel like part of this journey right now for her, and this quincunx to Neptune, we've got a square and a half to Saturn. That's Pisces, your ninth house of beliefs, of, even business. The ninth house also is publishing and marketing and influencing. And then we have this square to your seventh house. So Venus is very much gone from rulership and feeling pretty good about things to suddenly not trusting herself. It's almost as if the square and a half is some sort of fear that has been unearthed by some sort of tension that makes her feel as if things are, how will they ever work out? What will it be? And I think this is, I'm going to click off of this for a second. Now we get to go to the sun and think of the sun as we are source energy. So this is offering you an opportunity to really go into new territory, go into your hopes and your dreams, and to anchor in and ask yourself, how much am I emotionally aligned to those hopes and the dreams? Because the more I am emotionally aligned with joy, and that's this trine, the quicker they'll manifest, because you are the source. You are a source that draws the experiences and the resources that you need. And Pluto is encouraging that as well. Pardon me. So this is a really, really powerful time, even though the planets are in a challenging dynamic. I also think that in modern times, those dynamics are not exactly as palatable. I mean, there's an awareness now in these modern times that gives us an opportunity to be more in balance in these situations. And if we think of the planets as representing parts of our personality and our soul, then this really gives us an opportunity to be egoless to those around me so that I can create a sense of identity and a sense of peace and harmony, and feel a sense of power and control, and make my own money. Here, Venus can be very much at the will of other people's resources, which is a bit challenging. Okay, now we're going to go to the 24th, which is pretty significant for me as an intuitive astrologer. Let's see. And we see Venus is now on what's called the Shapley attractor. The supergalactic center, the Shapley attractor, the great attractor, and the galactic center, not in that order, are all part of the Shapley cluster. And here, this is a very powerful point in Scorpio where we're releasing false attachments, where we're releasing things that aren't aligned to our truth, to the deepest wants and desires of our soul. So Venus is really having a moment here as she is nicely making a trine to your ruling planet in your first house. So this is a September. I mean, I can't say it's just one period of time, because it feels like sets and waves coming of opportunities to further and further see the soul within the human structure, and then allow that soul to express itself with faith. Because here we see we still have this really pretty tense square to structure, to your seventh house, to the things that naturally call for cooperation and a certain amount of give and take. And what I'm sort of saying right now is we've got the sun on the super galactic center, which is the relationship with self as source. We're on Venus, who rules my self-worth and my money, and asking me here to release false attachments. And as I do that, of course, there's tension to what has been. There's a sense of potential erosion. There's a sense that I may lose, but I think there's also a sense that you may win. And I think that's what Spirit is really offering, and what I think Pluto is offering. And we sort of see that Mercury and Uranus and Pluto are all in a grand trine right now. And that seems significant to me, because as I can identify the everyday mind as it it is necessary. Okay. And then I infuse that intentional genius thought of Uranus, and I'm in review of that, then I can more easily excavate these last degrees of Capricorn with more ease and wisdom. It's like an incorporation. So your transformation brings more abundance. And as you believe of yourself as a divine being, you defy the laws of man. And that's where the Aquarius age and Pluto's re-entry into Aquarius is going to really see the next 20 years change the face of our lives. And I can't even begin to try to describe it. Okay, let's go on, because I don't know what it's going to look like. Let's go on to the 26th. Mercury enters Libra, and pretty much assumes that the same dynamics as the sun. There now, all these points, these planets in the south node are conjunct the supergalactic center, and Mercury's really starting to think about balance and starting to think about what is most important for my peace, my harmony, my sense of diplomacy, my sense of creativity and comfort and joy. And I don't think that this is a challenging thoughts. I think these is an incorporation of the retrograde and how Pluto and Neptune were making such strong, that focus, that yod is really God's finger giving you an opportunity to make a karmic change. And that karmic change is choice. And it starts with one step on risking and betting on yourself when you're not sure if it'll work out. But your heart says, oh, go gamble. Literally. All right, let's go to the last day of the month. And here we see that the aspects have really lightened up. Of course, the nodes will always be in an opposition, but we really don't have too much else going on. We've got this loose square from the moon to Jupiter, and that will move fairly quickly. It will bring some sort of, again, there's this feeling of, my everyday activities and something happening in the media. Jupiter rules publishing and branding and influencing and marketing, and there's a lot of campaigning going on, which is, trying to influence the masses. So your heart may be like, I don't know if I should do this, I don't know. All my friends are saying this, but I feel like I should do that. To me, I always trust your heart. And I think all these blue lines are indicating a lot of sort of coagulation, integration, or the beginnings of integration from what I've been experiencing all month long. Now, we do see a bit of a challenge here because Mercury is combust the sun right now. Mercury's never far from the sun, so the heat doesn't really bother Mercury. But I think overall, this is really bringing up potentially Cancer's childhood memories, maybe issues with siblings or cousins or extended family. There could be old habits of people expecting you to be your nurturing, loving, giving self, not worrying about whether you get a warm meal or whether you get the nicest Christmas present, as long as everybody else gets what they need. And maybe you're finally saying, I don't know if I like that deal anymore. I don't know if that's a good deal for me. And I think that's an important deal to consider, because when you put yourself bravely in your first house, that steam makes your locomotive move, gets motion. I don't know if y'all remember, that's a train, the steam train, steam engine. And I just want to say finally that there's a nice aspect between Mars in your first house. We've got Saturn in your ninth house, and then we've got Venus in your fifth house. That's a nice trine, giving you an opportunity to really connect. This Saturn is it's sort of like it's twofold, because, it could be so erosive if we get gripped in our fear. But boy, when we start to put the structure in and endure that little bit of unknowing and then implement, daily practices, weekly practices of connecting with our inner voice, with our team, it can really change our experience. So I think this is a great way to end the month bravely, really putting out there in the world, what's important to me? How do I want to feel? How can I have power over my own life? Scorpio is a very intense, and frankly, I think Scorpio is the most intuitive because it's got that criminal mind, and you are way too innocent to think criminally. I mean, I guess some cancers can, but depending on your chart. But for the most part, you are the mamas of the zodiac, and the maternal energy, the loving, caring, nurturing energy. And I think the focus is now asked to be put on yourself, even if it creates a little bit of tension. I think it will, in the long run, Saturn here, bring great reward. All right, my Cancers, that's it for me for September 2024. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. Please like, please subscribe, please share, and join me Sunday mornings live at 11 a.m. Pacific time, where we do an angel reading and a tarot card for each one of the signs. And we get the angel's advice for traversing the week ahead's transits. All right, everybody, I'll see you in October. Have a great September.